Somalia is a country that faces multiple crises at once. It has been suffering from decades of conflict, poverty, and instability. But in recent years, it has also been hit by the devastating effects of climate change. In this section, we will explore how climate change is causing droughts, floods, and locust invasions in Somalia, and what impact they have on the lives and livelihoods of the people. Droughts are one of the most severe consequences of climate change in Somalia. The country has experienced recurrent and prolonged droughts since 2011, which have reduced rainfall, dried up water sources, and degraded pasture lands. Droughts have affected the food security and nutrition of millions of people, especially those who depend on agriculture and livestock for their income and survival. According to the World Bank, droughts have caused an estimated $3.25 billion in economic losses between 2005 and 2016. Floods are another extreme weather event that Somalia faces due to climate change. The country has two rainy seasons. The Gu rains from April to June, and the Deer rains from October to December. However, these rains have become more erratic and intense, leading to flash floods and riverine floods that destroy crops, infrastructure, and homes. Floods have also increased the risk of waterborne diseases, such as cholera and diarrhea. In 2020 alone, floods affected over 1 million people and displaced over 400,000 people in Somalia. Locust invasions are a third threat that Somalia has to deal with as a result of climate change. Locusts are migratory insects that can form massive swarms that devour vegetation and crops. They are triggered by heavy rains that create favorable conditions for their breeding and reproduction. In 2020, Somalia faced its worst locust crisis in 25 years, when large swarms moved across the country and damaged hundreds of thousands of hectares of farmland. Locusts have threatened the food security and livelihoods of millions of people who were already struggling with droughts and floods. Climate change is not only causing these disasters individually, but also creating a vicious cycle of interlinked crises that amplify each other. For example, droughts create dry and dusty conditions that make it easier for locusts to spread. Floods create wet and humid conditions that make it harder for locust control operations to work. Locusts consume the crops and pasture that people need to survive the droughts and floods. These compounding effects make it harder for people to cope and recover from each shock. In conclusion, climate change is causing droughts, floods, and locust invasions in Somalia, which have devastating impacts on the environment, economy, and society. These disasters are not isolated events, but interconnected crises that worsen each other. The people of Somalia need urgent support to adapt to these changing conditions and build their resilience for the future.